Hi, my name is Hannah Digges-Elliott. I'm here to discuss my Capstone motivational interview training, improving subject matter expert and instructional designer relationships through consultation. I'm Hannah Digges-Elliott. I'm an instructional designer, and I'm also an adjunct instructor that teaches both undergraduate and graduate courses. In addition to being an instructional designer, I've also played the faculty role and worked with an instructional designer to help design and develop my courses. So I have a very unique perspective in terms of the instructional designer and subject matter expert relationship that really has weighed into my decision to pursue this capstone. The ultimate goal of this capstone is to create an online training on the use of motivational interviewing techniques in consultations for instructional designers. Instructional designers rarely work by themselves on any given project. They're nearly always working with a subject matter expert. As a result, the consultation and subsequent relationship of instructional designers with these experts can set the stage for the success of a project. This training will provide instructional designers another tool in their toolkit to improve or manage consultations and ultimately, hopefully, improve the outcomes of the collaborations. Another goal of this capstone is to argue for the use of motivational interviewing techniques in consultations between instructional designers and the experts. This technique is primarily used in counseling. However, I think it is extremely applicable here, which I will cover later. And my work within this capstone to create the training will help to justify its viability as a tool for instructional designers that I hope to build on later in my career by doing a more complete research study of its efficacy. A couple terms. The first is an instructional designer. For those who don't know, according to the Definition Terminology Committee of the Association for Educational Communications and Technology, instructional designers are professionals who participate in the study and ethical practice of facilitating learning and improving performance by creating, using, and managing appropriate technological processes and resources. A subject matter expert is an authority on a certain area of knowledge. A consultation is an ongoing process where the instructional designer and subject matter expert collaborate to create, edit, and improve learning experiences. Collaboration, a partnership where collaborators use each other's talents to meet a shared goal. And finally, motivational interviewing. It is a client-centered directive method for enhancing intrinsic motivation to change by exploring and resolving ambivalence. Basically, it is a set of techniques for enhancing internal motivation to make changes, to move forward. So why do we need this capstone? Why do we need training for instructional designers on motivational interviewing? Well, a lot of it lies with the instructional designer and faculty relationship or subject matter expert relationship. Instructional designers and faculty work together on instructional projects very closely. They tend to have a very unequal power dynamic. It depends, of course, on the institution, the environment, etc. But on the whole, studies have shown that there tends to be an unequal power dynamic where subject matter experts feel that instructional designers are simply their support to meet their goals instead of the institutional goals. There can be resistance by faculty to make changes, and this can weaken the collaborative relationship. On the other hand, instructional designers can sometimes be extremely persistent that faculty make changes that they're not fully comfortable with, which can also further weaken the relationship. So there are areas on both sides which can really affect the collaboration and ultimately the student outcomes. A breakdown in the faculty instructional designer relationship may end with poor outcomes for the instructional project, which of course will affect the students. So what is motivational interviewing? Why should we use it? It's primarily used in mental health and counseling contexts, really addiction. to help clients overcome their ambivalence to change. Motivational interviewing is related to self-determination theory, which is a behavior change theory where people have the tendency towards growth and resolving internal consistencies. The counselors in motivational interviewing do not tell clients what to do, what their motivation is, but instead just help guide them so that the desire for change comes from within. In this method, the ultimate responsibility for the behavior change lies with the client, which in turn increases their autonomy. No one is telling them what to do. They came to it on their own. The problems associated with the relationship between instructional designers and faculty include, the power dynamics, communication, self-actualization, and autonomy. These are all behavioral issues. And as Miller and Rose said in 2009, and Miller is one of the founders of motivational interviewing, they say that motivational interviewing is related to just general processes of human behavior and not limited to target problems. So it's not limited to addiction, which is the area in which it was founded, but other human behavior issues. And since we have the issues of power dynamics, communication, self-actualization with the instructional design and faculty relationship, these are generalizable processes of human behaviors. As a result, motivational interviewing could easily be applied here and could be a powerful tool in the instructional designer toolbox. So, what am I going to create? The Capstone artifact development, how am I going to go about it? I want to create an online motivational interviewing training for instructional designers. It needs to be online due to the needs of most designers. That's an area in which we feel very comfortable taking classes, creating classes, and it fits within all of our busy schedules. Being an instructional designer, we do professional development a lot, but it's very hard to fit it in. And so by having it online with a mix of synchronous and asynchronous activities, that allows for a certain amount of flexibility, which is needed given what we do for a living. In terms of how I would design it, I would likely use a problem-solving, task-oriented design model like Merrill's First Principles. First Principles has actually been used to develop training and motivational interviewing previously, as seen in the Cook 2019 study. So I would likely use that as an approach for those not familiar with First Principles. It's really focused on solving real-world problems such as this, but relies on, activating prior knowledge, providing demonstrations, ensuring that learners apply the knowledge, and then, of course, integrate it into their practice. So it's very well suited for something that is very competency-based like this. So to get started, what I would likely do is conduct in phase 1 some preliminary analyses. This would include a learner analysis, a task analysis, an analysis of our overall goals, etc., objectives, to make sure that we have a really good backbone for the development of the instruction. In phase 2, we'll move on to developing the training map and storyboard. In phase 3, that's where we actually create and develop the artifacts. And by artifacts, I mean, the actual training. This may include, readings, activities, assessments, rubrics, videos, etc. All of this occurs in phase 3. We'll likely use Blackboard as a learning management system, as it is the one most accessible, but it also has a lot of flexibility with it that would allow for the creation of something more workforce training oriented. In phase 4, we'll conduct an implementation analysis where we create a plan for the usability testing that will occur in stage 5 and subsequent evaluation. From there, we'll actually conduct the usability testing on a very small scale. It'll likely just be less than a handful of instructional designers. And then based on their feedback, and their artifacts that they submit. From there, I'll revise the instructions, the final step towards completing the capstone. There are some limitations. Motivational interviewing techniques are tools, not gospel. Instructional designers do not need to use this in any case. In fact, along with any tool, you should use it as the situation requires it. Another, key limitation is that being generalizable. The reason is due to the differences that occur in every consultation, every subject matter expert, every relationship. They're all different. As such, the instructional designers will have to evaluate the use for themselves and their continued use of this method in consultations. It's not always going to be, someone is afraid of change. Let's start asking open-ended questions and giving a summary of what they said and asking, providing different alternatives. It's not as simple as that. And as a result, it makes it hard to generalize what the results would be or how it should be used. Another limitation is the reliability of use. Again, each instructional designer brings in their own views and strategies related to motivational interviewing that could affect its efficacy. Someone may focus too much on reflective summaries and not enough on asking open-ended questions. Someone may focus only on open-ended questions and not provide any sort of affirmation. So there are just different levels in which each instructional designer could sort of use it and go off track with it or do well with it by doing something completely different than someone else, which makes it not super reliable in terms of its use. While a training will help an instructional designer get started with motivational interviewing, it would be impossible for us as designers of this particular training to assume every potential use case with faculty and subject matter experts and assess based on those situations. These limitations need to be further explored through research on the effectiveness of the training and the techniques seen within the practice after the training. So thinking more in the future of longitudinal study, etc. These are my references. It's just a small snippet of what is actually in the capstone and some really interesting readings, particularly if you're interested in instructional designer faculty relationships. The Richardson article is one that particularly spoke to me. Another note is that all the graphics and images used in this presentation are royalty-free and were downloaded from unsplash.com. If you haven't used that before, please do. I want to say some brief thank yous, particularly to my committee and my chair, Dr. Chris Miller. He has been amazing. Also, Dean Wayne Miller of Moorhead State and Dr. Rebecca Reese of the Colorado School of Mines. All of their feedback has really been important to the progression of my capstone proposal. Further, I'd like to thank Dr. Justice and Dr. Curry for their feedback during my coursework, which I'd really taken to heart and has really helped me sort of develop the capstone proposal. Also, Dr. Whitney Harper of Western Kentucky University was instrumental to my introduction of motivational interviewing due to, funny enough, an instructional design project that we collaborated on together. On the whole, my colleagues at WKU have been instrumental to my ongoing retention and progression, and beyond lucky to work at such a place that is so heavily invested in my future. And here at Moorhead, my colleagues in this program have been spectacular, and I've learned so much from them. And the final thank yous go to my husband Nathan and our beautiful daughter Caroline, who dealt with a lot for me in this particular instance. If you have any further questions or just want to talk about this, outside of the discussion boards, whatever, if you're just interested, I love to talk about instructional design. So please hit me up, send me an email. I would love to discuss this with you further. And thank you so much.